All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Martin's World podcast. And before I get into introducing today's guest, I'd like to just remind you that if you want to support the show and support the fight for cannabis legalisation in Ireland, you can do so by signing up to the patreon.com/Martin's World, or you can also make a donation in the form of cryptocurrencies over on martinsworld.ie. Up there on the homepage of the website, you'll find a button to donate bitcoins, or else there's QR codes up there as well if you'd like to support the show with other cryptocurrencies also. All of the funds gathered there, guys, will be used to fight for cannabis legalisation in Ireland and hopefully someday soon open up a cannabis activist hub here in Cork City. Today's guest then, guys, is none other than the legend himself, Tommy Chong. I was delighted to get the opportunity to sit down and speak with Tommy Chong, although I would have loved to have done it in person and been able to enjoy a proper talk with him. We had a good old conversation there for just over an hour, and I really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you do too. So guys, without any further ado, I give you Tommy Chong. Lovely. So Tommy Chong, welcome along. Thanks very much for taking time out of your day and coming to chat with me on Martin's World podcast. Tommy, you've been an inspiration to myself over the years. When I used to deliver pizza, when I used to finish up after work, we used to park up at the end of my mum and dad's road and flip out a DVD player in the car, myself and a friend, and we used to watch your movies.
Good one.
So many a very well spent evening and a hot box Toyota starlet watching Cheech and Chong.
Well, we do what we can do whenever we can do it. That's
well,
good.
I never thought I would find myself, all these years later talking to you. So Tommy, you've done a lot over the years. You're probably one of the most well-known. You're up there with the likes of Snoop Dogg and Willie Nelson, I would imagine. For me anyway, you're up there with those guys in terms of the greats in the cannabis world. So it is a real pleasure to get to meet you. I'm starstruck to say the least.
Well, that's one thing. One of the things that unite us around the world is the love of the cannabis. That magical plant. Well, it's our connection to the divine, to the Most High, to the one connection that we all have, and being united like that with this great plant creates miracles like this.
It does indeed. And can I ask Tommy, how, and why did you first get introduced to our friend Mary Jane?
It was through the jazz world, the world of jazz, modern jazz, as they called it back in the old days, modern jazz. It was a jazz club in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And it was the only late night place open. And if you were a musician, which I was, and you carried your instrument into the club, you got in free. And so, and it was the only place to hang out after hours. And there was a bass player, and actually the founder, I found out later, the founder of the jazz club, what was it called? I forget. Well, when the name comes, I'll tell you. Anyway, he came back from Los Angeles with a bag of weed and a Lenny Bruce record, and so he gave me a joint and a Lenny Bruce record. Here you go. And it was ordained. It was very serendipity. I never really knew him. He knew of me, but I met him that night, and it was quite an honor. And of course, I put the joint in my pocket, and he lit one of his own. And I just took I took a couple of tokes, and it just changed my life. I was listening to, they had music playing in the background. And then as soon as I got high, I believe I sat down. I don't remember. And I remember the song. It was Lonely Woman by Ornette Coleman, and that was the song that the night that changed my life forever. I think the next day or the next, that was the weekend, obviously, and then Monday came along, and I went and I quit school immediately. I knew that what I needed to learn was not in the school. It was really out on the streets, and the music that I wanted to play was not being taught anywhere in my neighborhood. And so then I ended up hooking up with a black guy, black football player, and he turned me on to rhythm and blues. I believe I was turned on by that time. Yeah, I was playing blues by that time, and so yeah, that was part of the whole package.
Yeah.
If I really wanted to be a blues man, I had to know about pot, and that was it. That changed my life.
So your introduction to the cannabis, I suppose, would have been through music and comedy. But your career started out as a musician. But when did cannabis become so central to your life then, through comedy afterwards?
Well, we always used it musically. We always had wherever. Well, we traveled. We got kicked out of Calgary. Every important movement in my life was the result of being fired. Or being expelled. I got kicked out of Calgary with the band. Of course, we were glad to go,
Yeah.
and and cannabis really was always a part of it. First of all, it was a big secret with the band. I didn't know that the organ player was also smoking,
Really? So
smoking
even
weed.
within the band, you didn't even know that the other
No,
smoked? Whoa.
because it was so taboo. It
Yeah.
was so taboo, that I mean, all the word out was, made you act crazy and everything.
Mhm.
It was the jazz people, but the trouble when they said it was a gateway drug. Uh, Most of the jazz, if not all of them, they started out with weed, but they ended up with heroin. And it was a heroin that usually stopped the momentum. Uh, but and a lot of the junkies, a lot of the heroin people, they frowned on the weed. They it wasn't of their taking. Although now, uh, marijuana is used to help addicts get off get off the hard drugs. But back then, pot was frowned upon by everybody,
Mhm.
including the junkies. Uh, and so we kept it a secret. And then it wasn't until I met Cheech, really,
Really?
that that I became openly activist.
Mhm.
And I didn't really become. I didn't want to become an activist. I had no plans of doing much more than just playing the next gig. Playing music. But it was when I went to jail. That's what turned me into an activist, because I had no choice then.
Yeah, well, that's what done it for me as well. At 17, I got stopped and searched, criminalized for having a bit of hash, and that turned me into an activist. So it was much earlier in my life I got activated. I suppose that your activation that only happened in 2003, if memory serves correct. Is that right?
Well, that's when I went to jail. Yeah,
When you went to
yeah.
jail.
But I mean, even going to jail was a sign of my activism, because the weed thing was going on, but it was the bongs. We had a bong company,
Yeah.
and we were kind of skirting around the drug laws, because it was a glass company. And bongs have been on the planet since the beginning of tobacco, or since the beginning of time. It goes back to China, and I don't know how far back it goes. Uh, yeah, so yeah, that's it was the bongs that really got me into the activism, because I got put in jail. I had choices on the way. I could have fought the bong thing, and I could have done a lot of things. In fact, they wanted me to denounce denounce the lifestyle and so on. But
No
but
way.
I what happened to me, because along with my music career, I started like a career in bodybuilding. I was always skinny and kind of weak. Growing up, I spent a year in the hospital when I was, 3, 4 years old,
Okay.
and so I never developed, properly, like normally,
Mhm.
and so I was always a kind of a light in the butt. I was a little lightweight, and so when a friend of mine went to jail, and he got out, a young kid, we were both 16, I guess, and he came out all buffed. He'd been working out, and he come out, and I looked at him. He had a chest, he had arms, he had shoulders, and I said, "What happened?" He worked out with weights. But it was funny. He quit as soon as he got out. He quit weightlifting, and he went back to his
Yeah.
old ways.
He played it within a month.
But when I saw the transformation, well, then I started going to the YMCA, just working out in the weight room. By the way, back in the day, the weight room was about the size of a small kitchen,
Oh.
and it was just a handful of weights, and they were like really crude, but there was something. And then I ended up, we went to Vancouver, and when I got to Vancouver, then I found a real weight lifting weight room, and the weight room in Vancouver, they had a sort of like a tradition. The little guys, the late weights, stayed upstairs, and you had to be able to bench press or incline press 45 pounds on either side, 245s, in order to go down to work downstairs. And so it was like it took me a few months to get down. No, it took me about a year. It
Yeah.
took me a year,
It's funny you say that
and
now. I was watching a video earlier today, and you were flashing that tattoo you got off the bike or on your arm. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, geez, Tommy's pretty buff. You got a big old arm on you. So that
yeah,
explains it.
yeah. Oh no, I went, well, as far out as I could. I'm one of those. I'm not a fanatic of anything. Except being being social.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so I ended up you're really getting into the weightlifting, the bodybuilding, and in fact, my dream, like a lot of bodybuilders in Vancouver,
Mhm.
was to go down to Gold's Gym where the big guys worked out, and I did. I managed to do that. When I
Nice.
left Motown, I went right to California, and I lived on the beach. I joined the gym, uh, Gold's Gym,
Nice.
and I worked out right up until Joe Gold passed away. Joe and all my buddies there. I had a good God, almost 20 years of working out there, and it was great. What a great life, and because bodybuilding gives you a body,
Yeah.
and it gives you good habits. And if you got a body, that means you got a face, you got hair,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Well, it
And
takes
and
discipline.
you got carriage, you stand up straight, and you it answers all the questions you need.
Yeah, definitely. Can add years to your life as well if you do it right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's no shortcut. you see, I learned a lot of life lessons with bodybuilding
Mm-hmm.
because, yeah, you can do it, but you have to pay. You have to work. You can't give up. You got to work through everything. And it's about pain. No pain, no gain.
Yeah, I know all about
Eh,
that.
yeah. And
Yeah,
so it works.
I do a lot of martial arts myself, mainly Thai boxing. But I'm into a lot of plyometric body weight stuff. I don't like to go after big weights. I don't want to get too buff.
Yeah. Well, they used to tell you at the gym, when you get, like they would say they didn't want to look like Arnold. And so the gym guys would say, well, when you get there, we'll make you stop. you know, we'll stop you
Let you know.
before you get that big.
Come here, Tommy, can I ask, I'll pick up on something you mentioned earlier. You say you didn't become an activist until you ended up in prison. Would you not have seen your work through Cheech and Chong and that humor, through your comedy, that in itself wasn't a form of activism?
Oh, totally,
Yeah.
totally. But more so than that, we had a choice,
Mhm.
to do what kind of movie we wanted to make
Yeah.
because it was brand new. Uh, Neither Cheech or Lou Adler, who ended up directing Up at Smoke, uh, they weren't really interested in making movies. It was me that created that because I got tired of touring. You know, I loved touring when we first started out, but when it became a job, when it became repetitious,
Mhm.
and almost like necessary because you got to pay bills, you better go on tour. I resented that. I didn't want to. I didn't, especially going to Australia. Um,
Yeah.
you're working in America is fine because you're home, you know. Uh, but when we the first time we went to Australia, it was a novelty. Okay, we did it. It was tough
Mhm.
because there's no Mexicans. You see, half our act depended on having Mexicans in the audience, and that really made us superstars. Well, Australia, there's no Mexicans. And so it was almost, the burden was almost like shifted to me because, Cheech is the Mexicans half, I'm the other half. And it was all about the others. And
Mhm.
so I found out that I had to rewrite. You can't go back with the same show. At least I thought we could. People do, but I knew, no, you got people that, especially the guys that book you, and if you
Yeah.
show up there with the same tired, show, because the show has to be fresh,
Mhm.
to you. And you can always tell when someone's just repeat, going through the motions, uh, and then and then it's no fun. It's no fun for the audience. It's no
Yeah.
fun for the people. And so I felt that 3 times in Australia was enough, and so then I started writing a movie because I saw the future as a movie. And when Cheech and Lou found out, then he said, "Oh, okay, we're going to do a movie." And I didn't even show him my movie, because Lou had a different idea of what he wanted, and so then so I just went their way, and then I wrote a song called "Up in Smoke," and I sang it for Cheech and Lou, and Cheech says, "That's the title." And so we had the title of the movie,
Perfect.
and then Cheech and I decided, well, we'll do our two famous characters, and then that's when I decided that I would become, as you say, an activist for not just weed, but for the Chicano community,
Mhm.
the Latino community, because up until then, they were having white guys play Latinos, you know, they were having and then when they played Latinos, it only showed them with headbands and guns. They were like real.
Gangbangers.
Uh, yeah, the gangbangers. And so then I wanted to show uh, a Chicano musician,
Hmm.
you know, and Cheech was the singer, you know.
Yeah.
And so he's going to be the singer of the group. And then on the other hand, I always like to deal with opposites, you know. And so I wanted to have the opposite of Cheech, which would be, at the time I wasn't sure. I knew that Cheech would be poor. This character would be from a wealthy family.
Hmm.
And then Cheech's cousin Louis came up with the whole concept of Anthony Stoner. Anthony was a Jewish kid, a rich Jewish kid, but he was too old to live at home. But he's living at home. He
Yeah.
was like the world's oldest teenager, and so and then for characters, when we did our record, Cheech and I used a lot of jazz phrases, you know, and man, calling each other man. See, that comes from a history of back in the day, the jazz musicians, all the black people were called boys at the time. Hey, boy, get over here, boy. You
Yeah.
know, boy, it was a demeaning attitude, saying that no matter how old you were called a boy,
Hmm.
you know. And so the jazz guys, starting with Miles Davis, they used to call each other man. So what's going on, man? Instead of boy, it was man. And so then I thought I'd add that in there. And so, hey man, hey man. And so we added a lot of hey mans in there. And so we never did. Anthony was his and Up in Smoke. His name was used once. You get Anthony. You get a job by sundown. You know, and and that was, it was taught up. We definitely, I definitely had that in mind. And then I wrote most of the the plot, and the idea of getting a truck made, or a car made out of marijuana.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, yeah. So that was my idea, and then I wanted to put the cops in there too. In
Mm.
fact, I used the name of a real cop that used to bug us in Vancouver.
No
You
way.
know, yeah, Stadenko was a real cop,
He was actually a
and
real cop.
he got so famous that they transferred him to Turkey.
Oh,
he got he got transferred out of Canada to
ah.
Turkey, and wasn't a friend of mine. He busted friends of mine. You know, he jacked up my dad one time because there was a pot grower or seller living the border, and so I had a kind of a vendetta going with Stadenko was his name, Abe Stadenko. Yeah, so yeah, so the whole movie Up in Smoke really was a protest against the depiction of Chicanos and the depiction of potheads. You know, I wanted to bring out the humor
Yeah.
in it. You know how funny pot could make you be under all circumstances.
Yeah.
You know, the cop but stopping us, getting stoned off the exhaust pipe, and then coming and eating the hot dog. Those were all incredible anti-drug law protest uh, scenes in
Yeah.
the movie, and that really helped make the movie the iconic movie it is today.
Well, it truly is an icon, and it'll definitely stand the test of times, and it has
Yep.
forever it'll hold its place in cannabis culture. That's for sure.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
my favorite scene in the movie was the whole car scene going down the highway yourself and Cheech. Before he ends up with the cops, you keep on knocking, but you can't come in. And the Labrador, that whole scene. Oh, I laughed so hard. Oh, I was in pain. Really did. Oh, I was in pain. But oh, I love that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we perfected a lot of those scenes with our act, our live act, and that was the other thing we did too. We made our live act become visual,
Yeah,
because we done that scene. That's how we started. We started in a club, and And it was out of necessity, because we were, we started in Canada, and we never did any Latino jokes at all, because we never knew that Cheech was Chicano. It wasn't until Cheech and I became Cheech and Chong that I found out that he was Chicano. And then we never stayed in Vancouver. We came right away once we found out we could, the two of us, and we came down to LA. And when we got to LA, we found out that very quickly that we had to do some pot jokes, because that was the only thing that everybody related to at the time. Yeah. And so Cheech never did a Chicano character until we came to Canada. I mean, to Los Angeles. And then he started doing that Chicano character. And the minute he said, "Hey, Red Freak, want to ride, man?" That really was the sound of money, because that changed the whole, you could hear the whole club just electrified. They'd never heard anything like that or saw anything like that with a real Mexican. Yeah. There's some Bill Dana, there's a bunch of Jewish guys that would play Chicanos and get laughs, and they had all these little cartoon characters, Latinos, Chicanos and that. But it wasn't until Cheech, a real Chicano, said, "Hey, Red Freak, you want to ride, man?" As soon as he said that, man, it was like we just discovered penicillin. Something. It was like, whoa, that was it. And then when that happened, then I knew it was a matter of time that we were going to be conquering the world.
All right, you knew you had a feeling then after that.
Oh, I know. Well, you can, if you're on stage, you can tell, when you hit a nerve. Oh, and that's with hit songs too. When you know, no matter how hard you work on the song, if you don't have the right combination of everything, it'll be, well, like the Grateful Dead music. I just watched the Grateful Dead documentary, and the most amazing thing about the Grateful Dead is that they must have written over 200-300 songs, and not one's memorable. You don't hum one. You can't hum one. You can't even think of one that you go,
Yeah.
Where you get a guy, you get a song like Louie, 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 everybody in the world was singing Louie.
Okay, can I ask, Tommy, actually, on your work, then after Cheech and Chong, you got so famous around cannabis. Did traveling ever become a problem? Were you ever targeted? Like, I know with the bong stuff, you did become a target afterwards. But did you ever get targeted traveling? Australia, for example. Did you get like extra extra attention paid to you?
We got the attention, oh, for sure. But so many people in the culture were those cops and were those guys. So many people, and so they ignored it unless it was in their face. They totally ignored it unless you're, transporting tons or something, But yeah, I always got caught with a joint or a pipe or something, and then they would take me in the office and they would, at first try to me, and then, I'd just sit there and look at them and they let me go, yeah. Oh yeah, we got targeted, but more for humor and more for the laughs that we give people, it wasn't like I was, trying to make a militant statement with the pot,
Yeah.
It was, yeah, once you do up and smoke and you get people laughing, especially cops, then when you get stopped, you're a hero, even with the cops,
Yeah.
because they loved the fact that that we made them, visible.
Yeah.
Because we took them out of their caricature, where people always had them, being mean and all that shit. And then we had them getting stoned and acting crazy. And so the cops really loved that part,
Yeah, they get to be seen as human too, I suppose.
Well, yeah, people, especially in America now, they like to demonize the cops from watching the press. I'm watching the TV now without sound on, and it's always about cops and shooting people or killing people and all that. Well, I went on a ride along with a cop because, like I said, I was in Gold's Gym, and a lot of the police would train at Gold's Gym. A lot of cops, they're all pretty well bodybuilders, for their job, and so I got to know one cop real high up, Eric Struthers. He was. They were looking at him to head the Homeland Committee thing in Los Angeles, or in actually in America. So he was a buddy, and he said, "Would you like to go on a ride along?" And so I went on a ride along with cops for one night.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear to God, man, I'd never had so much adrenaline rushes in my life. And it was, and the cops told me this is like a normal night. Jeez. But it was crazy. I mean, we stopped these gang guys. They were going 80 miles an hour. I think it was 4 a.m, soaking wet, coming from the beach.
Yeah.
And they were stopped, but we were backup. We had to come because they had threatened the cops that stopped them, the motorcycle cop or something, with violence. And so we were backup. And these gang guys, they're giving the cops the fingers and all that. And so the cops made them walk home because they impounded the car. And there was a lot of threats exchanged between the cops and these guys. And it was like, I'm going to get my AK and come back and kill all you motherfuckers, and, stuff like that, And this is what cops go through every night, every day.
It's definitely not too rewarding a job to do, for sure. And it's very easy.
Oh, my God, So you can understand why, if you see a black guy reaching for something other, and the guy says, don't reach for your gun, don't reach for your gun. You can understand the fear, because it only takes one bad decision and you're dead.
It is, but it's just unfortunate though that the color of your skin is a reason to be afraid, for cops, and it's disproportionately there. If it was a white guy, that they're less likely to think he's reaching for a gun than if it was a black person, and all of that kind of.
Well, it is and it is and it isn't.
Yeah.
It definitely is, for sure, that there's danger out there for the cops. It's also true that the cops cause a lot of that because they don't like to be scared, cops. No. They don't like to be scared of anybody. And so when they do stop a guy, say that is innocent, a lawyer or whatever, they tend to be mean to the guy because they know he's harmless. He's not going to hurt them. And so they tend to be, because they're scared shitless when they walk up to the guy. It's not like they're walking up and they're going to kill him. They're walking up thinking that they're going to get shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so and when they find out that the guy is a doctor or lawyer, he's not going to hurt him. Well, then they can get shitty, especially if the guy, I know my rights. If the guy starts that, then the cop, because he knows that he's got the freedom to do whatever he wants to do with these guys, and if he's a crooked cop like they had, in the 50s and that, or in like in New York, it's warfare on either side, Well, so I understand both sides.
Yeah.
But getting back to the question of weed, once the cops recognize who we are, and there's no danger, then they can be friendly, and then they can they can let down their guard, and Cheech would tell them all the time that his dad is a cop, because his dad was a cop, in Los Angeles, and the toughest part of the area. Yeah. And so it's no, actually the Cheech and Chong gave us license around the world to do. Hey, I got into Japan. Can you imagine that? Now, Japan is one of the strictest, pot countries in the world. If you even look like you got a T-shirt or something, they will stop you. Or if you look like well, I came in there. Now I'm older. My wife's gorgeous. And she's, she got all the Rolex watches and all this stuff in there. And when you go into any country, here's a tip for people. If you go into any country, if you can, wear the country, the hat or the insignia of that country. And right away you will present this, I'm coming into your country to spend a lot of money. Because I am a tourist.
Yeah.
And if you act like a tourist, then they'll open the gate, man, come on in.
Yeah.
But if you come in either looking like a undercover cop or some kind of guy on the run or some gangster or some hippie, they hate hippies because hippies, they don't spend money. They they camp out, in fact. And so I'm coming into Japan with my wife, and I have to put down, that I had a drug bust, which was bongs, but still. So I put it on that thing. And so I get called into the main guy's office. And right away, he looks at me, and I'm quite sure he looked, I was there by myself, but I'm quite sure he got a picture of my wife. And I'm wearing a Rolex, and my wife's wearing a Rolex. I'm dressed nice. And so the guy goes, broken English, this drug bust, what drugs? I said, no drugs. I said, it was bongs, water pipes. He goes, aha. He says, okay, here, you lie.
You lie.
You lie. You lie. If they ask you, you lie. Tell them no drugs. You lie. And welcome to Japan.
Nice. Happy days. At least they were okay about the bongs.
Yeah. You lie.
Yeah, the pity that
because the Japanese, they sell pipes. They sell smoking pipes. They've been smoking opium since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
They got these beautiful Japanese
really intricate pipes.
Pipes, all beautiful. The tiny little
Yeah.
opium bowl. It's not tobacco, it's for opium.
Yeah.
Tiny little bowls. I collect. I got a collection here somewhere.
Nice. Can I ask, in the during the raids, when you got raided by the cops, they came at about 5 in the morning, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Did you actually really think that you were being punked by Ashton Kutcher, or was that just a joke you were trying to tell?
We weren't sure. We weren't sure. My wife woke me up. There's bang, bang, bang on the door.
Yeah.
It did freak me out. I wasn't scared. I'm never paranoid. I don't know why. I thought, well, usually because I'm usually stoned. It takes me a while to come out of the fog. No, I had no idea. And then when I saw them, they look like trick-or-treaters, felt like Halloween,
just dressed.
And Halloween apples or, whatever, trick-or-treat. That's what it felt, because they had their mask on, they had their guns, they had their boots, they had their vests, they had their whole regalia, whole outfit, and I'm standing there in my bikini shorts. They weren't even jockey shorts, they were bikini shorts. And it was quite a few years ago, so I was quite virile, and I had a little bit of wood, and so I know. and I'm used to walking around in my underwear in my own house,
Yeah.
And so finally, the lead cop told his friend, hey, take him upstairs and get him some clothes, get him dressed, because I was making him all nervous walking around like that. Then when they came in, they said, we have a warrant, and for we're going to take your computers. And so that's what they did. They took all the computers in the house, and they ruined them, by the way.
Really?
They literally trash them. Yeah, by taking a, looking for stuff. They take everything. What they do, they take everything apart, and then they don't want to put it together. So they say it's just trash and
Yeah,
trashy
putting it
shit.
back
Or they
together,
keep,
that's no problem.
or they keep it for evidence.
Mm.
No, the cops are like criminals. They come in and anything valuable they grab. Call it evidence, whatever, because they're usually dealing with drug dealers and dope dealers. They don't care. Take all the money. They got a few billion somewhere else anyway. As part of the cost of doing business. And they treated me semi nice, but shitty enough to make me know that I couldn't become a smart ass.
And while this
I,
was going on, you were treating yourself with cannabis for cancer. Is that right? While around that time?
no. I
Oh,
was I got cancer in jail. I
it
think
was
that's where I
in
got
jail.
picked it up. Yeah,
Okay.
because I was totally healthy before I went to jail, and then when I went to jail, I got a bad case of gout, and I got rectal cancer while I was in there
Over the
because
stress of it all.
I felt it coming. I
Oh,
felt it. Yeah, I felt there was some stuff going on with my junk. There's something funny going on,
yeah.
and no, I got that. And the jail I was in was or is built over a toxic waste dump. It was the
Where the hell's that?
first the first site of the first oil well. See, but when they discovered oil, they had no way of containing it, so they would dig these big ponds, and then of course the land would become useless,
Hmm.
and so they built a prison over it,
Oh,
and everybody in the prison, including myself, and ended up with cancer. A lot of the guards and that they died
yeah.
early from
Getting
from
electrolytes
cancer.
into the water and
Yeah,
stuff.
everybody that I was in there with, except for exceptions of a few of the inmates, are gone. They're dead.
No
And
way.
yeah, yeah. They had a thing called valley fever there when I
Gee.
was in jail, and if the wind got too heavy, they made everybody come inside because
Yeah.
there's that crap in the dirt
Yeah.
that would kill you
And for
or
your
you get
crimes,
cancer.
like your non-crime, really bongs. But like you have the More Act, at the moment going through the US state over. Do you think that there's the provisions in the More Act go fair enough? Like considering all that you've been through as a prisoner now for your crime of selling drug paraphernalia, bongs. Like, is there anything they can put into that will truly even repay you as a prisoner or as a victim of that prohibition?
I'm not sure. I have no idea. I know that the prison complex. I was part of that,
Yeah.
and in some ways, uh, uh, I never, I don't resent anybody,
Mhm.
anything, because I always look at my life. Like I said, I got fired. It's like being promoted,
Or
and so going to jail. I went from really being a has-been actor, comedian, to an activist. That CNN would call me up. I had all sorts of people calling me. On the, I was a regular, almost on Fox News because I was so anti Bill O'Reilly and that their ratings would go through the roof. I
yeah.
think that's what got me busted, because before I got busted, I would go on a lot of right-wing talk shows and piss everybody off, but increase their viewership,
Yeah.
and I think that's what I got their attention. Because I would go on the radio show and I would out everybody as potheads,
Yeah.
and whether they were or not, I would just, I'd be like Fox News. I'd lie, you know. He'd say, uh, uh, isn't weed bad for you? Yeah, well, I smoked with Danny Sullivan, the race car driver. Yeah, him and I, oh, we get high all the time. Well, it was a lie. but I knew Danny Sullivan anyway, and I don't know whether he smoked pot or not, but it would light up the airwaves, Danny Sullivan's a friend of mine. He never smoked pot. It's like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's full of shit. They all went nuts. Well, I think the Bush family, George Bush, when he was president, I think they got wind, or Ashcroft, one of them got wind of it. And anyway, they put a hit on him, a federal hit on me. And so, and I had friends in the business that knew about it, but they never told me. Had they told me, I could have got out of the bong business. But then I wouldn't have done what I did, so.
And what would poor Mary Beth Buchanan have done then? She wouldn't have been able to climb up the career ladder as she did, using your good name.
Yeah, she fell off the career ladder.
Has she?
Oh, yeah. Well, she lost her job as an attorney, I think it was because of the press that she got with me. And then she tried to run for some seat as a Republican. And so the Democrats flew me in to Pennsylvania just to be there, just to show everybody that, Mary Beth Buchanan put Tommy Chong in jail for 9 months for selling bongs.
Yeah, and I get her some hate.
and when they asked her about that, do you regret what you've done with Tommy Chong? And she said, I wish I'd given him more time.
Doubled down, digging a deeper hole.
And that's the end of her career. Bye-bye, Mary Beth, bye-bye.
Good riddance to a bad thing anyway. No, it's unfortunate people like that out there, they're just thinking about themselves climbing a career ladder and not thinking about the person affected by their actions. Like taking away 9 months of your life for selling bongs. Surely there's better, like at a time when you think about it, 9/11 wasn't only 2 years before that with September 11th. The US had a lot going on in terms of their internal national security. Surely there was bigger threats to the nation than Tommy Chong.
You would think, well, when they sentenced me, they sentenced me on 9/11.
That's right, yeah, on the 2-year anniversary.
And then they tried to make a big deal of it. They had me in the largest courtroom in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
For no reason, because no one showed up. One guy showed up with a cardboard sign said "free marijuana." One guy.
Jeez.
And there was nobody else, because I wasn't part of any organization. It wasn't legalized, nothing. No. It was bongs. It was water pipes.
No,
and when they raided my house, they also raided my son's factory, and all they did was go in there and smash the bongs.
That was it.
With crowbars. They took them and broke
Jeez.
all the bongs, like vandals, like drunk fools,
Yeah.
What did that prove? And then they were lying, and they were saying that the money, we made billions of dollars from selling bongs, and that the money was going to support terrorism. It was sick. And the thing is, they knew all these things were lies.
Yeah.
And so what it was a war machine. The people the arms people and the oil people that wanted the war, because when you got a war going on, man, oil prices go through the roof, and the guns, you got to sell them tanks and all that crap, What were we spending? There's like a couple of $1 million a day for these wars that went on for 20 years.
Jeez. Yeah, the operation for you was $12 million alone.
Yeah.
2,000 hours involved in it.
Yeah. For had they called me on the phone, I would have come in.
Saved a lot of money.
They would have saved a lot of money. We weren't trying. In fact, they actually helped the business. They put an undercover agent in there to find out our finances. Well, he found out that we were operating at a deficit. We were losing money. And part of the reason we're losing money is because we never had a proper business plan. And so while the undercover guy was there, he kind of give us a proper business plan. He showed us how to operate the business properly. and then we went out of business. So it was, but oh yeah.
More
Yeah.
doors be.
Yeah, it really helped though. My son went back to school, and he went back. And he tried to get a law degree, but then he just couldn't deal with all the reading, all that crap,
Yeah.
And he's an artist. He's a really good artist.
Yeah.
But and now, thanks to my notoriety, we're on the verge of becoming a $100 million pot business.
That's right. Yeah. Like, what's it like now when you think about it? You were in prison for 9 months, and right now the cannabis is an essential business in certain states where it's legal.
Yeah, isn't that something? It's essential.
Lunacy.
All the bars are closed.
Yeah, the bars are closed.
And the pot shops are wide open. Pot shops are wide open. It's okay. It's my daughter.
Apologies.
But she knows that I'm on thing. Yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah.
How many kids do you have, Tommy, if I can ask?
I've got 5 of my.
Yeah.
My wife and I have 3. My first wife and I have 2, and then I have 4 or 5 grandkids, and then I got 2 great grandkids. So I got a nice family. My son Paris married a Muslim from Jakarta, and so we got a Indonesian
bloodline even more.
Yeah, we got an Indonesian family and a granddaughter, Kira, and another granddaughter, Kelly, and another granddaughter, Camille, and I got Gus is my grandson, the surfer. He's a little surfer in Canada, and Jack is a filmmaker in Toronto. He's a grandson, and Morgan is, I guess he's a finance guy. He went to university, got a degree, and he's in financing. And he has 2 children with a Chinese lady, and so I've got a nice Technicolor
That's brilliant
family. Yeah. Oh yeah, they're all great. They're all beautiful.
Nice, and I see you've also got a nice growing range of products at Tommy Chong's products as well. Can I ask what's your favorite product on your range?
Probably our what do you call it? Our single joints. What do you call pre-rolls?
Pre-rolls.
The pre-rolls. Let's see if I got one here. Yeah, I got crap all over the place, man. I am such a. I got them here. This isn't my company, but this is what we. This is our favorite product. The pre-rolls. They're nice. We're doing well with them, but we're trying to get our business up so we can get into the dispensaries all over the world.
Yeah,
that's my goal. Is I want to get the whole world stoned.
Nice. Did you ever think like when you started off with Cheech and Chong that you would have been owning your own cannabis brand one day?
Listen, I had trouble coming to the grips that I own a car. Every time I get in my car, I go, oh, look at this. It's me. It's mine. I spent so much of my life with the cheapest cars you could buy. One time you could buy a car for $100, and you didn't resell it. You just junked it, or you parked it and walked away. Back in the day, when everything was in the 50s,
yeah,
in the 50s, in the 60s, the 60s, you could buy a lot of really cheap cars. $100, $100. That was usually what we did. And then, and then I worked my way up until, I bought my first brand new car was a Citroen Maserati.
Oh. Sounds nice.
And I had it in Mexico one time, and I picked up the kid hitchhiking, and the kid, hey, thanks for the ride, man. He says, but your car sure is ugly.
Very thankful passenger.
But it's so honest. It's
Yeah,
honest Mexican.
You gotta love it. Gotta love honesty. Can I ask you, Tommy,
sure.
to explain something? When you got out of prison, you had to go through a probation period, and you had to register as a narcotic offender, is it?
Yeah, a drug offender.
A drug offender. So your probation period, did you have to abstain from consumption during that period?
I had to abstain pre-trial pre-trial probation.
Oh way.
I got tested the minute I got nailed by the cops. I quit smoking, and I never smoked again until I got off probation. So it was about 3 years. 3 years without. Because I knew, I've known the game for all my life, and the thing is, these drug tests and all that, they're traps.
Yeah.
Once they get you in there, they give you incentive to break the law,
Mm-hmm.
and if you break the law, then they add more time on your sentence. They don't have to go to court.
Yeah.
They don't have to do anything. You broke a rule, you get another year. You get, that's why they'll give you a suspended sentence, so that it's always hanging over your ear, always hanging over you if you step out of bounds. Well, I knew that. My family, we used to take in people that just got out of prison.
Yeah.
And if you want an education on the law, talk to ex-prisoners, because they've gone through the whole thing. In fact, when I was in Taft, there was a guy, a lawyer that was so-called helping other people, but he was more than just blowing off steam more than anything. But I knew that these traps existed. Mm-hmm. And so when I went in, I got tempted. Right as soon as I walked in the prison, guys were offering me joints, because if they could bust me, they got time off of their sentence. That's how the prisons worked. It's a snitch place. And so I made a point of not smoking until I was totally in the clear.
Lovely, yeah.
And then I did it, because I just wanted to show everybody that
it can be done.
Weed is not addicting.
Oh, it's not.
No,
definitely.
Guys in prison, they were crying over cigarettes or over anything. One time I got gout, and they gave me medicine, and I took a couple of pills. Boom, the gout's gone. But I had a whole mess of pills. Well, the guy across the cubicle from me, he literally begged me for those pills, because he had an addiction. Can you imagine taking other people's medication because it gets you high? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, to be caught in that kind of web, No, I was clean. I was clean. I passed every drug test. They even try to fool you. They say, what have you been doing? What do you mean?
Doing salsa.
The test, I don't know. It's kind of proven, you must have been doing something. They try to get you to confess.
Yeah.
And if you confess, well, then they don't have to worry about it. But
you mean they try to give you the impression that you're after failing the test?
Yeah.
Get you to admit that you've done something, even though you've passed it.
Well, they don't tell you passed.
Yeah.
They never give you the good news. It's just that, okay, everything, okay, you can go now. And so you go, So you don't know. They're not nice to you at all. They don't try to be nice,
And,
or accommodating. It's not like when you go to a doctor,
yeah,
when you're getting a drug test by the feds or by those people, man, they're pretty brutal.
yeah.
And I
Oh,
used to fill,
everything.
I'd pee the thing till fill it right up to the brim, then hand it to them. Oh, for God's
Good
sake.
man, good man. And can I ask, like, having this first-hand experience now, you're working as an ambassador with the Last Prisoner Project at the moment. Um,
Yeah.
like the work that they do, I'm very well aware of the work that they're doing. But what's your role as an ambassador with the Last Prisoner Project, and how are you helping them out?
But just by talking to them and giving them hope and understanding what they went through, you know, it's pretty tough, the toughest thing about prison for the most part is leaving it, you know.
Yeah.
uh, you get used to being confined, you get habit, and there's a lot of people. That's why there's a lot of crime recidivism rate is very high because of that, because there's no future on the outside. See, inside you got a future. You know what you're going to be doing every day, and you're when you're going to shower, when you're going to eat. And then if you've got connections, you got the run of the place,
Yeah.
unless something happens and they lock everybody down. But for the most part, I had the run of the prison, you know. And if I wasn't coming out to a loving family like I was in a career and everything else, I would find a way to stay in there, because everything in prison, you got everything you need. You got time to
Hmm.
yourself. You see, that's most important. And when you look at people, when they let them out of prison, see, back in the day in Canada, they started having, they have a John Hopkins organization, and that was to help people, give them a suit, clothes, help them find a job, get them a place to stay. I don't think they have that now anymore, and they sure don't have it in the States. Like in New York, when they let people out, they let them out in the middle of the night, in the morning, and they'll take them down to the Skid Row area and just dump them there, and it's like catch and release, with
Yeah.
the rats. You catch a rat and you take them out in the country and let the cage out, let them go, and that's the way they handle it. For the most part, that's the way they handle the prisoners.
Hmm.
And so, what they have halfway houses here, and I was in a halfway house, and a halfway house is full of con men, full of guys that they got me right away.
So
They got me right away. I'm on my bunk. It's a like a community bunk place where there's about 10 guys in the same area. And you got a bunk, and I was up in my bunk, and I heard the guy on the phone, and he's lamenting that, you know, well, I don't know. He doesn't have any money, and he doesn't know how he's going to do this. He's got a lot of things to pay, and all that. And I heard him. And then I realized later that he wanted me to hear him, because it was a setup for me to go, oh, hey man, I'll help you, because I wasn't hurting financially, and because I had friends, Gold's Gym, we were talking about weightlifting.
yeah.
Well, when I was in the halfway house, I needed a job so I could get out during the day.
Hmm.
If you have a job, you get out during the day. Now you had to have your earnings to the halfway house, you know,
Yeah.
and and then you had to check in all the time to make sure you're really at the job you're supposed to be at. Well, of course, I wasn't really at the job I was supposed to be at. I could have been, and for the most part, I did. I liked the gym anyway, and I tried to work. Joe Gold wouldn't let me. Joe Gold wouldn't let me. I tried because I got used to it, sweeping and picking up trash, And so my first day out at the gym, I got a broom. I'm out there sleeping. And Joe Gold calls me in. Oh, Christ's sake, what are you doing? You're not working. Go work out. You want to work? Go work on some weights. You know, it was embarrassing for him to have prison help. You know, but yeah, the halfway house. It's crazy. It's another thing.
So did you have to stay there as part of your probation period, is it?
Yes, for a month.
For just 1 month.
And then I got out July 4th. It was the July 4th that I did a whole month, and then July 4th, I was free. You know, free of the thing. And I had where I leased my car from. You know, he was an old buddy of mine, so I didn't want to have a nice new car, you know, waiting for me. You know. You know, because I'd park it on the street and go in the halfway house and then do the night and then get up the next day and then go get in my car. So he gave me an old beat up Cadillac, you know, which suited the neighborhood. and so I had the car. Yeah.
You needed
I got to tell you, man, it was an experience that I treasure. I treasure. It was not. It was all new to me because I had evolved to the point, especially spiritually, you know, because that's one of the things I'd been working on before I went in. And then when I went in, I went full spiritual, you know, into the I Ching, into all the metaphysical readings and that. And then I joined the Sweat Lodge Society in prison. And that was all about spirituality. And so and then I continued when I got out, you know, just being very, very spiritual.
And when I was in a prison, I asked the prison officer for a book. Guess what he gave me?
Bible.
Mein Kampf. Adolf Hitler.
Mein Kampf. He gave you Mein Kampf.
He gave me Mein Kampf. There you go. What the hell? Oh my God. It was in there.
Did you read it? Did you read it?
I read a couple of chapters. Yeah, I got a couple of chapters out of it. Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't a bad read.
Hey, you know, Hitler was a real bad guy, but he was an artist.
Yeah,
he had an artist soul, for sure, for sure. He was a little twisted, but actually the guys he hired were more twisted than he was, I think. You know, but he was an artist, and I'm quite. I have never read his book, but. Yeah, I will one period at a time. You know, did you see? I was just watching CNN where the Nazi thing in Germany is sprung up again. You know.
Yeah, the 100-year-old man getting criminalized for the Nazi crimes.
Yeah.
Mad.
Yeah, the Nazi thing, and they're defacing the Holocaust museums and all that stuff. But you know, it's ignorance that will always be with us.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason. There's a reason for these guys, and we're the reason. Us.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't for them, there wouldn't be us.
Yeah.
you know, if it wasn't for those idiots, we wouldn't be talking about going in jail and helping others and everything else. And so there is as necessary to our being as anybody else. The opposites. So of course, yeah, there's Nazis. There always will be on this plane of existence, because you can't have one without the other.
Definitely,
you know, you need left in order to have right. You need up in order to have down. You need good in order to have bad, or you need bad in order to have good. Because if there was no bad, there would be no good.
That's very true. But
and that's where we are. That's where we are. If it wasn't for idiots, you and I wouldn't be even talking.
Well, that's why you have to make mistakes to learn from them. That's pretty much it, isn't it? Really, like we learn from the mistakes we make as a society, and we improve, we grow from there. We hopefully won't have any more Hitlers in the future. And
no, there will be. There will be all of that. in the future is only bigger. Well, look at Trump. Trump
Yeah.
is a good example of what happens if you don't believe the good guy.
Mhm.
You know, if you think that the good guy is lying, and then you put all your marbles with the bad guy, here you go.
Yeah.
Now you got a president that seriously doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground.
Uh, can I ask you a favor actually of you, Tommy, as I have you here? The Irish
Sure.
government we have an opportunity here in Ireland very soon. There's going to be a bill before the Irish government to legalise and regulate cannabis, put forward by Gino Kenny, a TD here in Ireland. But we're trying to raise awareness as to the benefits that this will bring by ending this prohibition of cannabis, by getting Alicia home. Alicia Maher is a lady from Cork here, and she had to move from her home to Spain. And she's stuck in Spain now because she gets access to cannabis in Spain, and she would be a criminal for it here. So maybe if I could ask you, could you ask the Irish government to support Gino Kenny's bill to legalise and regulate cannabis? And
Sure.
I might be able to get a soundbite, and we might be able to get an old viral clip out of this or something.
Okay. So what do you want me to say?
Just to the Irish government, to do the right thing and to enact or to support Gino Kenny's bill to legalise and regulate cannabis.
Gino Kennedy?
Gino Kenny.
Gino Kenny.
Kenny.
Gino Kenny.
Yeah, that's the man.
Okay. Hey, man, this is Tommy Chong, and this is a message for the Irish government. Marijuana is a medicine. It's a proven medicine. It works. It helps people with cancer, people with all sorts of ailments, MS. It's proven. So, Irish government, please do the right thing. Support the bill to help legalize marijuana.
Thanks very much, Gino, Tommy, for that. I really appreciate it. I've engaged in a couple of campaigns here myself in Ireland. I've brought some cannabis plants into the local cop stations here, and I handed them in civil disobedience. I brought in joints, I brought in cannabis flower itself. Every month this year, I've engaged in at least one civil disobedience protest, and I'm going to continue right up until the end of the year. Some months I've engaged in more than one. I've planted cannabis in the city hall here in Cork City, and I've also brought a cannabis plant to the office of our Prime Minister here in Cork City too, all in support of Alicia Maher. Actually, was the name of the girl. Gino Kenny is the politician, but Alicia Maher is the lady that we're supporting there, stuck in Alicante. But I carried out all of those actions. I'm going to be probably going to prison maybe myself if this bill doesn't get passed. But it's a small price to pay, because
Small price.
it is.
That's a small price to pay. You're definitely on the right track. And listen, you're where I was a few years ago, and look where we are now. And so you got a great future ahead of you. And I guess the Irish, it takes them a little time to come around, but eventually it will. You're doing the right thing, and good luck, and keep up the good work.
Thanks very much, Tommy, and thanks again for taking the time out of your day to come and talk with me here. I really do appreciate it, and I'm honored to have you. Honestly, thanks.
Let's stay in touch. I want to hear the rest of the story. Okay.
I
want to hear, especially I want to hear if Gino responds. And if he does, then let's keep that thing going, okay?
We will indeed. Thanks very much again, Tommy, and we will definitely be in touch. Have a nice day. Bye.
You too. Ciao.
And there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Tommy Chong. As I say, I was delighted to have the opportunity to sit down and talk with him, and I probably could have talked to him for a lot longer too. Had Tommy more time there to chill. But given that he's quite a busy man, I was incredibly honoured to even just to get an hour of the guy's time. So guys, thanks very much for tuning in. As I say, I hope you enjoyed it, and just a final reminder that if you want to support the show, support the fight for cannabis legalisation in Ireland, don't forget to sign up to the patreon.com or the option to donate in the form of bitcoins or other cryptocurrencies there too through the martinsworld.ie website. So thanks guys, stay blazed out there, keep it lit, peace.